Edmund Burke is credited in saying that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. I added the "and women" to bring it in the modern moment. Also, the matters are made worse when ineffective leaders give upfront payments to bad actors that essentially serve as bribes that fund even more bad actions. At some point, there is a need to thwart the bad actor's ability to create catastrophic harm. No one in our modern society wants to see another never-ending military conflict, where the end goal is not well understood by society, those trying to achieve it, and the people trying to lead it. The preference is always for peaceful means and diplomacy. War of any sort should always be an option of last resort, but an option nonetheless. The world has moved past the ages of global imperialism, where the powerful show the mettle by conquering lands, people, and building empires. Those days are largely over, despite some nations trying to restore old maps. The era of Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, and others have forged the world and awe-inspiring to some degree, but we generally know that conquering others is not acceptable. At the same time, it serves no reasonable purpose to be completely unable to provide for the defense of one's own people, to be completely unwilling to engage and address a threat for the fear of being mean to the aggressor. There is peace through strength and the ability to reduce the ills of larger conflicts with smaller missions that prevent escalation.
There is an irony in renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War and then completing 2 regime change missions in the first 2 months of the following year. But any time you can remove a socialist dictator and a global terrorist from being a threat, the world is a better place. That is the reality we must accept. Americans rightfully so want there to be strong justifications before placing the brave men and women of our armed forces in harm's way. Sure, they are trained to be the fiercest fighting force in the world. But we do not want to enter conflicts that can be avoided, and prefer that we use diplomacy with our military capability as a deterrent and motivator to nudge into a deal. I think rational Americans understand the context of history and chain of events that will lead to conflict and the reality of the threat that exists with a rogue nation like Iran. Their hands are on every major incident in the Middle East and have blatantly funded terrorism against American and our allies. We cannot ignore the reality and pretend like Iran would ever choose peace over the perpetual reign of terror that benefited their interests and influence due to fear. Over 1,000 Americans have lost their lives due to Iranian actions. And our leaders have never done anything to stop the terror. 1,000 of our allies have lost their lives because of terror campaigns planned and approved by Iran. And the idea that America or Israel should wait until Iran gets their stockpile ready and actually creates the harm is idiotic. There are times when you need to be proactive. The cost of being reactive is just too dire. The Iran deal did not keep the threat under control. It only invested funds into a terrorist industrialized complex. It was a mistake by our former President Barack Obama. The idea that you give the benefit ahead of the expected behavior is asinine. We do not want war or military conflict. But we want to protect our interests whenever possible. And the evidence is clear enough that this was needed. Waiting would have most likely increased the death toll on our side. Thoughts and prayers to all the families of those who have lost their lives in the fight.
Part of the equation is what the objective is and whether we understand it. President Trump laid out that the mission is to prevent Iran from ever having a nuclear weapon, remove its capabilities to produce nuclear weapons, and secure a commitment from Iran to ensure they give up their nuclear ambitions, in a similar manner that past rogue regimes were forced to commit to changing their ways. Now, the question some people are raising is whether the earlier strike in Operation Hammer was actually a decisive blow. The combined operation took out the complete air defense capabilities as well as damaged its main facility. But obviously it became a top goal to bring it back online. That was a predictable response. The current situation undoubtedly changes the equation. When the dust clears, whoever takes the reins to lead will need to look at what is left. Look at the economy that was left in shambles by the demagogues who preached hate and created a generation of hatred. Look at a society tired of oppression and wanting a new path forward. Hopefully they see the only path forward is to move towards a more free society. The right path is to join the global community in peace and commerce, rather than driven by generational religious hatred. Move Iran forward away from their recent past, towards a peaceful future. That is really their only option at this point. Understandably, they will be pressured into this choice and we must wonder whether it can remain over the long haul. Will the benefits of a new tomorrow outweigh the generational belief that their duty is to perpetuate anti-American and anti-Israel hatred? Can they be better than their former oppressors? This is what the leaders will hopefully accept, the same path Germany, Japan, and Italy took.
While there are legitimate concerns with military engagements, especially with our past experience with radical ideological regimes, I do not think we should automatically back down from doing bold actions that will potentially lead to peace for generations in the future. Those Iranian sympathizers in the Democratic Party are running propaganda for a deadly regime. As many podcasts have pointed out, Democrats fully supported military operations in Libya, where then Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that President Obama needed neither congressional authorization or permission for his 7-month campaign. Now, her disciples are running around calling Operation Fury an illegal operation even though it has followed the letter of the law. Democrats know they are lying and they know they are on the wrong side of this, when those would normally be on their side politically are celebrating in the streets because for once in a half-century the rogue nation and biggest sponsor of terrorism can change its ways. It can be more of an open society or at least in line with its neighbors. It can stop killing women, demonstrators, and non-Muslims. Yet, Democrats want a cap for rogue terrorist regimes that they gave $400 billion to, like they wanted a direct investment in a nuclear Iran. This is the same political party that was bankrolled by Jeffrey Epstein, keep in mind.
There is great deal of potential for the region if a peaceful regime comes to power. Sometimes to get to that peace, there needs to be a forceful removal of the existing evil that killed so many people in the region. A bloody regime that needed to be removed. The truth is everyone knew that the world would be a better place without the existing Iranian regime, but fear guided their policies. The same people calling this a forever war wanted to endlessly fund the Russian-Ukraine war with potential intervention, but did not have the common sense to even engage with each side to determine if there is a path to peace. Politics is easy to speak about issues. Leadership solves issues. We see that clearly.